Okay. So the learning objective of this lecture is to learn how to produce probabilistic forecasts and, of course, how to evaluate this probabilistic forecast. But now I think now you understand how it works. So we produce forecasts, and then we need to find some metrics to evaluate them. So a small reminder of this morning, forecasting is a natural step to decision making. We do not forecast just for itself. We forecast for doing something, and most of the time it is to take some decision. And when we are considering point forecast, it means that we produce a value for each hour, for instance, or each quarter. But it is only that. We just produce a value, a single point. And it is a model that computes at time t a value for time t plus k based on some information we have up to time t. We have seen that we have several strategies to assess the forecast. So first strategy is to divide the data set into a learning and a validation set. And another strategy is to use k cross-validation, where we will compute k pairs of random learning and validation set. And then we can average the score over all the validation set. We have seen that for the point forecast, we can use some quantitative metrics. So for instance, the mean absolute error and the root mean square error. So now we will switch to the probabilistic forecast. So it is the same problem, but the difference is that we would like to produce something else than just a value. So we are here at time t, and we would like to produce a probabilistic forecast of, for instance, PV generation for time t plus k. But when we are talking about probabilistic forecasting, we are talking about, for instance, quantiles, density forecast, prediction interval, or scenario. So let's see, for instance, the quantiles. So quantile forecast, when do a quantile, for instance, it is the median. So when you are considering the median, it means that you have you say that you have 50% of chance to be above the value of the median and 50% of the chance of being below the value of the median. So imagine Q is the median. So you would like to produce a forecast of the PV production, but this time the median of the PV production. So imagine Q is equal to 50%. And so this is a quantile forecast. And so here, for instance, on this figure, you have the quantile forecast for the median of a wind generation plant. So you have the observation, that are the points. You have some point forecast, that is the dashed lines. And you have also the quantile forecast, that is the black line. And the quantile forecast means that if the quantile is good, it is a good forecast. It means that 50% of the time the observation will be above, and 50% of the time the observation will be below this black line. But you can also produce different other quantiles. So here it is the median, but you can also consider, for instance, the 90% quantile or the 10% quantile. It completely depends on what you want to do. But I think you understand that it's a different thing on forecasting the 10% quantile or 90% quantile than forecasting the point forecast. The point forecast, it's like if you forecast, in fact, the average. On average, you think that your prediction will be around this line. When you are doing quantile, it's completely different. And then if you use quantile prediction, you can build prediction interval. A prediction interval, it is an interval within which power generation may lie within a certain probability. So here, for instance, on this picture, they put the observation that are the points. You have the point forecast, that is the black line, and you have a kind of a threshold in gray. And
sorry,
in fact, what?
Question?
Question?
Yeah, are you recording?
Yes.
Yes.
And so here, in fact, you have in gray the 90% prediction interval. It means that it is in fact, an interval that is built with the 5% quantile and the 95% quantile. And so if the forecast is good, it means that 90% of the time, the observation will be inside this interval. And here we can see that, for instance, it seems to be okay because most of the time the observations are within the 90% prediction interval. And so you can understand that when you are using, for instance, this prediction interval, it is not the same information than point forecast. You will not take the same decision. When you are using the point forecast, you expect on average to have this value. When you are using, for instance, here this 90% prediction interval, maybe you would like to be sure about something, and that most of the time you hope that your value will be within this interval. But you can see that you have much more uncertainty. Okay. You have also a different kind of probabilities forecast that is called the predictive density. A predictive density describes the probability distribution of the power generation. And here, for instance, you can estimate the probability distribution with several quantiles. So if you are able to compute all the quantiles from, for instance, 1% up to 99%, you have this kind of figures where you have a kind of density. The density where it is quite black, it is where you expect that most of the time your value will be, and the more close it is to the white, it means that the less probable it is to have the production. And finally, you have a last kind of probabilities forecast that is named scenario forecasting or trajectory forecasting. And here you are interested in computing several scenarios for the same day. So you just sample some possible trajectory of your random process. So here it is also for the wind generation. So you have also you have the observation that are the point and the black line, the point forecast, and they sample several scenarios. And there is not necessarily a scenario that is more probable than another one. These are just some possibilities. And so, for instance, you are on a day-ahead basis, and for the day of tomorrow, you just sample 10 scenarios. And based on these 10 scenarios, maybe you will take a decision. So you can see that there are different kinds of probabilistic forecasts, and you will select a kind based on what you want to do. So let's take an example. So here it is the case study that we have considered for the point forecast, so the PV parking rooftops at the Liège University. And here I design a neural network that produce quantile forecast of the PV generation. So here in red, it is always the observation, as before. You have in black the point forecast. Remember the point forecast? So this is what we have done during the exercise. And you have, in kind of the other color, you have several quantiles. You have the 10% quantile, 20, 30, 40, etc., up to 90% quantiles. And the blue line are the extreme quantiles. So the smallest one is a 10% quantile, and the highest one is a 90% quantile. And so this quantile means, if they are good, so for instance, for the 10% quantile, that 90% of the time, the observation should be above the 10% quantile, and 10% of the time, it should be below. You understand the logic? And so between the 10% and the 90% quantiles, it means that we should have a probability of 80% to be within this interval. And it seems to be okay. The observation seems to be almost of the time, most of the time within this interval. And here you have, in fact, two different models. On the left part, you have a feed-forward neural network, the MLP, so the neural network that you implemented by using the scikit-learn library. And on the right part, you have a recurrent neural network, and more particularly a long short-term memory neural network. And you can see that the quantiles do not have the same shape. You see it's different. The quantile are not the same. But can you guess which model is the best? Do you have an idea? Sorry?
Right.
Right? Why?
Because most of the values are inside the quantiles.
Okay, okay. And imagine that if all the values were inside the quantile, do you think it would be the best model? No, so it depends. So in fact, we need to compute some metrics. We need to compute some metric to verify if these quantiles are good or not. In fact, here it is very, very difficult to say which model is the best. I cannot tell you which model is the best. We would need to count the number of times the observation is outside the interval and to verify if, on average, we have 80% of the time the observation that is within the interval. And here, like that, I cannot tell you. So that's why we need to use some metric to verify the probabilistic forecast. So let's take the same case study. And here it is the same model, so feed-forward neural network, etc. I have already told you that this morning. We have the same evaluation strategy, so we use these two models. So how do we want our forecast? Do we want reliable forecast? Do we want sharp forecast? Do we want skilled forecast? So depending on what you want for your forecast, you will try to optimize a specific kind of metric. So if we are focusing on calibration, so the reliability of the forecast, so for instance, for the quantile forecast, if you compute the quantile forecast with a nominal level of 0.5, so the median, you expect that the observations are most of the time, 50% of the time higher and 50% of the time below. So if you want to know if your forecast is good, you just count the number of times the observation is above and below, and you verify if it is 50%. If it is not 50%, it means that your quantile is not good. And for prediction interval, the same thing. So if you have a prediction interval with a nominal coverage of 90%, you expect that your prediction will be 90% of the time within this interval. So we just count. So let's just try. So here we count. So it is called the reliability diagram. And on the x-axis, you have, in fact, the quantile, so from 0 to 1. And if your forecast, your quantile forecast were perfect, it means that if you consider the median, 0.5, you should have 50% of the time the observations that are below and 50% of the time the observations that are above. And if you consider the 20% quantile, you should have 80% of the time the observations that are above and 20% of the time the observations that are below. And here, for instance, on this figure, you see that the observed, so when you count the number of times for your model, it is quite close to the ideal model, but for smallest quantile, 20%, 30%, it is above the ideal model. So it means that these quantiles are not so good. Because, for instance, if we consider the quantile 20%, in fact, it is not 80% of the time that the quantile are above, but less. So it means that this model is not so good for the extreme quantile. Then if we want to assess the sharpness, we can compute another metric, that is width. And so to do that, you just compute the extreme quantile. So for instance, 90% quantile minus the 10% quantile. And you plot this, and you see how it looks like. So here, for instance, it has been done for wind generation with a different width interval. So here, for instance, it is with a width interval of 10%, here 20%, 30%, up to 90%. And you can see that the interval width increases with the lead time. meaning that it reflects higher forecast uncertainty. In fact, it is logic, because if you forecast in 2 days, it is much more difficult to be accurate than forecasting in 1 hour. And here it is what is happening. Here you forecast in 1 hour, and here you forecast in 2 days. So of course, the quantile are much more extreme, and so the width interval is increasing. You have also another quantitative metric, which is called the continuous rank probability score. And the continuous rank probability score is like the mean absolute error, but for probabilistic forecast. It's a kind of extension of the mean absolute error for probabilistic forecast. And so you can compute this metric, and then it is quite useful because you can compare a point forecast model to a probabilistic forecast model with this metric, because you just compare the continuous rank probability score to the mean absolute error. Don't care about the formula, just to tell you that there is a definition, and then you can use it. And so let's take an example here. So here I compare for different models. So a feed-forward neural network, the MLP in blue, a long short-term memory neural network, a recurrent neural network in red, and a gradient boosting regressor in green. And this model compute on the Liège case study the quantiles, PV quantiles, and I compute the continuous rank probability score per lead time. And you can see here that, for instance, the best model is the red one, the long short-term memory model. But you see that it's a metric that is similar than to the mean absolute error. Okay, so that's it for probabilistic forecasting. I will not tell you more. I think that just what you have to understand from the lesson of this morning and this one is that forecasting is just a tool for decision makers. That's it. It is just a way of providing information to take a decision. And that there exist several types of probabilistic forecasts. You have also, for instance, the quantity forecast, the density forecast, the prediction interval forecast, and the scenario forecast. And depending on your application, maybe you will use prediction interval or maybe scenario, I don't know. It completely depends on your application. So here, for instance, you have quantile forecast, here prediction interval, density forecast, and here scenario forecast. And depending on your case study, maybe you will use this information or this information. Depending on what you want with your forecast, you will compute some indicator. So if you want that your forecast, if you want your forecast to be reliable, you will plot reliability diagram. Or if you want that your forecasts are sharp, you will look at the width of the prediction interval. And if you want the forecast to be skilled, you will compute the CRPS, the continuous rank probability score, that is an extension of the mean absolute error. And then for the evaluation strategy, it is the same thing than the point forecast. You need to adopt a strategy, so you can just split your dataset into a learning part and the validation part, or you can use K-cross validation. And similarly to point forecast, you have also some information into the book of Pierre Pinsson, and also on his teaching on his website. They are quite useful materials. So that's it for the presentation. Do you have any question?
Yeah, but it's for the assignment. How are we supposed to group ourselves? Like, what's the group?
I cannot hear you very well.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's better.
Okay, I was asking, how many students should work per group?
So it's 2. Actually, you can ask me.
Ah,
Okay. But we are odd. Like we are
Maximum 3.
if you want to be free, you can be free. I don't care.
No. The thing is that we are 21, so.
Well, it's definitely a group of 3.
Just don't be 10. Doesn't mean anything if you're 10. Bertrand, do they need to do an additional assignment?
Non, je n'ai pas compris. Tu veux dire quoi, Jonathan?
Est-ce qu'ils doivent absolument faire un assignment en plus?
Qu'est-ce que tu veux dire par là? Demain, donc demain, ils auront un assignment sur le sizing, c'est ça essentiellement qu'on imaginait comme
Ouais,
le
parce que
score.
c'est pour savoir si du coup ils doivent faire sur le probabilistic forecast ou pas.
Ben, je me dis que ça serait bien qu'ils en aient un plus sur le machine learning et un peu plus, plus sur l'optimisation, vu que c'est les deux choses qu'on a fait cette semaine. Donc je me dis qu'ils pourraient le faire, oui, comme assignment. Tu penses que c'est énormément de
Je me
travail?
rends pas compte. Après, j'ai l'impression qu'en Python, c'est un peu galère, mais après, normalement, avec ce qu'ils ont vu, ça devrait aller. Mais...
Ils ont déjà la version, ils ont la version déterministe maintenant.
Ouais, déterministe, ils ont tout. Maintenant, quantile, c'est quasiment pareil, mais il y a une petite subtilité parce que tu dois faire un fit par quantile, quoi. Mais bon. Je peux leur expliquer un peu le code et ils essaieront de se débrouiller alors. Peut-être faire ça.
Quand ils sont débrouillards et quand ils seront face au truc, ils vont s'en sortir. Moi, je pense que mon assignment sur le sizing, il n'est pas gigantesque.
D'accord.
C'est un truc à trous. Enfin, ils ont quelques contraintes, mais comme ils ont déjà vu l'operational planning, bah,